Okay, so Ivan, what's the biggest battle you're facing with your identity right now?
I definitely know I identify as someone as a healthy and fit individual, but I'm also afraid that I've attached all of my identity to that person, you know? And it got me thinking recently, even though I've had this like minor injury in my adductor. And, for me, the adductors are a very important muscle group for all the stuff that I do. And even though it was like a minor little thing, I could still do all the other stuff that I need to do. I still felt like a little bit sad, because I couldn't express myself in the way that I really wanted to express myself. And it sort of just got me thinking, how much of my own happiness and identity is wrapped up in what I can do from like a performance standpoint. And I think it's helped in many, many ways. And I think it's still going to be a very strong part of my personality, but I don't want it to be the only thing in my life. You know what I mean? Because eventually we're all going to have to face this reality. We're going to demise to some degree. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and the thought of not being able to do what I can do now in my 50s, 60s, and 70s scares me a bit,
And just to confirm, are you talking about doing the crazy stuff like splits into standing? Yes. You're not talking about just
yes,
just training in general. You're talking about
no,
back bends.
No. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. All the sort of extreme stuff that I'm doing now and working towards, like, I know there's going to become a point where that's going to go backwards, and I'm like, that shouldn't upset me as much as it does. You know what I mean? But it just goes to show, well, it makes me feel like, it makes me feel odd because I know it may be subconsciously or unconsciously, I've created that to be a huge part of my identity, meaning that if it goes, what am I? I know it's not the reality. I know I have a lot of other things that, make me who I am. Like, I love coaching. I think coaching is a big part of my identity as a human as well, like giving value to the world, this and that. But I was just like, whoa, that's a heavy thought to be like all these, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm that wrapped up in how, I used to sort of go back and forth with this. And I think it's very important for a lot of our members and people who are listening, to have a really performance mindset when it comes to whatever they want to do in the future, when it comes to their physique. Yes, aesthetics can be a good driver to get you in shape, but for that long-term sort of game, performance is usually going to be a better way to stay in shape, for example. But then it's more like, well, what's the thing is, you can also take that very, very far, meaning that all you value now is what you can do and what you can produce. And I think that, taken to the extreme, as with anything, is a very dangerous road to go down, because what happens if you get injured, if you can't do the things that you think you should be doing to progress, because all you've ever done is gauge progression on how you develop from like a movement perspective. When that starts to backslide, or when you don't have the capacity to do that anymore because of X reason, how is that going to impact you on your day-to-day? That's a heavy thought for me anyway.
Yeah, well, there's layers to that as well, right? But people will, some people may not resonate with the fact that they attach their identity to whether they can do the splits to stand. But at the same time, they may attach their they may attach their identity to business performance or their bank balance.
Exactly.
How what their partner says to them. And that can be the driver of their mood. If a partner compliments them, they're happy. If they say something bad, they're unhappy.
Yes.
If your doctor is happy with you, you're happy. If your doctor is injured, you're unhappy. Yeah,
exactly. And that shouldn't be that way. I should have a broad enough happiness identity portfolio to make me continue living my life in a good way. You know what I mean? So that's been a very interesting thought pattern,
Well, I think about the whole performance thing often as well, because it's probably not as consuming as it is for you, but a big part of my identity is like physical challenges done to the extreme.
Yes.
Like I love like pushing myself, and I find a lot of value in that. And I find a lot of my,
why though?
I find a lot of my personal growth that comes with it. And the question is, why do I enjoy that? Like, why do I enjoy that? That extreme. Why does it have to be an extreme pursuit and an extreme challenge versus, why couldn't I just hit pads for my time? Why did I have to go and try and go to Thailand, then do a fight?
Yes.
All within 4 months. And then now I'm like, oh, what's my next challenge? Just like, what's going on there? And then when I'm pursuing that challenge, I do find a lot of growth and I do really enjoy it as well. And I love the journey there. And it is interestingly, when it comes to the physical aspect, I don't feel very attached to the outcome of it. I am very much enjoying the journey. I'm less like that I struggle with that a bit more in business, where I feel like I'm less focused on the process and sometimes I worry about the outcomes. Maybe because there's more at stake, maybe there's more on the line.
True.
For other people involved. Maybe that's why. But I always had these physical goals I want to pursue. And when I was thinking about, because I knew you were going to talk about identity, I was thinking about what makes up me, right? And one of the things I wrote was like pushing myself to the limit physically as a big part of my identity. I almost pride myself on that I could push myself, harder than most people can. And one thing you put on the identity lecture for part of year 2 in pro was that you gave an example of Ed. He said like one of the things he prides himself on is just not stopping when he's running. And I think you said something similar with your cycling.
Yeah, and we all have that. We all have that same thing,
right?
Yeah, I find it very fascinating. We like to identify as people who do hard things. That's the way I see what we do. Like, I think we attach a lot of, I would say, even self-worth, self-identity to having the capacity to push ourselves to limits that we never thought were possible, and at first glance or at first listen, that's like, well, that's admirable. That's really good. I wish I could do that. But then the way I see it, again, if we go deeper and deeper, it's like, well, why? What makes this different compared to the person just they pride themselves on their aesthetics? It's the same thing. Like, who are we to say that the person who wants to train because of aesthetics, well, how are they any less or different to someone who just trains for performance? You know what I mean? And this is the realization that I sort of came to, was just like, I myself now prioritize performance, and that's why I love training, this and that. But who's to say that is a better approach than the person who just wants to train to look better? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing. It's just packaged differently because it sounds nicer.
Well, maybe what you do, you need to do more of the aesthetic stuff, because maybe that might help take the edge off, because there's not as much line. Because we say to the people that are obsessed with aesthetics to do performance, right?
Go the other way, right? Yeah, because it's very easy. Like, and I catch myself like it's funny because, when I'm in the gym and I'm, really I'm pushing the limits, like, I think everyone thinks I'm the biggest arsehole in the gym, until they actually speak to me and they get to know me a bit better, right? And I'm there fuming because I can't do my split to stand, while there's every single person in like the corner who's doing their mobility class can barely touch their toes, and they're happier than I am. You know what I mean? Because of that, it's the same thing, right? And I speak to a lot of hand balancers who are very advanced now, and I see them every day. We're all in the same camp, just trying different things, trying to progress, and we're all just getting as frustrated as each other. But those same people, you tell them, hey, 3 years ago, what were you doing? They're like, yeah, nothing compared to what I'm doing now, But the level of happiness is still the same. They're probably happier back then because they were learning and they were making gains. But, the whole idea of, and this goes back to even looking better, people think that automatically when they look better and when they get in shape, that's going to give them the confidence that they thought they never had, And I've always said that, and I'm sure you would agree, is that the confidence comes in taking yourself to become the person who needs to get in shape, if that makes sense. It's not you having abs at the end of it or you having whatever. It's the person that you need to be to become the person who's in shape. That's what gives you the confidence. But I think a lot of people, and again, I'm guilty of this as well, especially in the crowds that I hang out with, is that we're always chasing that next goal, the next extreme, the next big thing. And the thing is, it's never enough.
Well, it's no difference.
Never good
it's
enough.
No difference in like your career and your business. Like, oh, I need to earn £1,000, £2,000, £3,000.
This dopamine trap. It's a dopamine trap.
Yeah, and like the easiest example most people can relate to, if you're like a 100-meter sprinter, it's like, all right, I'm going to keep going, but when you ever going to get to Usain Bolt? No. So you're never going to feel enough, right? Because you're comparing yourself to him.
I know.
Well, this is the interesting thing. You said like, well, why do you do it? And there's two ends of the spectrum. It's like, one is you're doing it because you're trying to run away from something, and the other thing is you're doing it because you want to become something. And where do you think you fall on that spectrum when it comes to, let's say, your pursuit in gymnastics? Do you feel it's because you're trying to fill a void, or do you feel like it's because you're actually trying to genuinely push yourself and test yourself to see what the human body is capable of?
I definitely think it's. I would say potentially it could have started off as a bit of a mixture. I would say it's definitely more to the latter, but maybe my brain has convinced me that that's the real reason. But maybe some other part of me is trying to fill a void that I'm unaware of. And I'll probably be on this podcast in 5 years being like, yep, I was an idiot. My spine's done. My hips are done. I've got arthritis. I'm finished. But yeah, I definitely don't think that's the case. I think I definitely love the pursuit of just seeing what I can push to. That's within my capabilities. That's within my grasps. I definitely find a lot of enjoyment from that. Why is that? I don't know. I really struggle to find like a definitive answer to that. It'll be, I don't know. I get a lot of satisfaction when I land something like that, or when I accomplish something like that. But again, it's a fleeting thing, because it's more like, okay, what's next now?
Yeah, the actual, when you get it, it's the biggest anticlimax in the world, right? So when you do a photo shoot, that once you've done it, the first time is obviously exciting and you're happy about it. The second time, third time you do it, even though you've gotten further and further and further, becomes just becomes another thing you've done, right?
Yeah, and I sort of think, because I'm pretty much mid-30s now. Someone thought I was 24 the other day, which is pretty good. Like I'm thinking, and even though the stuff that I'm doing, I know there's a lot of longevity in it, and I know it's great, this and that, but yeah, it's like how far can I be pushing this extreme? And then will I be happy when I can't be as extreme, And then I ask myself, why should that even matter?
Yeah.
Like I think because I have put my identity in this so much that is who I am, and for that to go, it would be like part of me is now gone. But who knows?
Yeah. I think it's also, maybe it's a season of your life right now. This is your identity. Maybe in a year's time, you're sitting in the gymnastics waiting room, and the woman of your dreams walks in and she blows you away 2 years later. Maybe
you never know.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I've got I've signed up for a half marathon now again for September, end of September, right? And in my head, I know when I did it last time, I actually just did it just to turn up and do it, right? But now I'm already like, I don't see why I can't do. I don't see why I can't do 90 minutes. I'm like, well, why do I need to run at Why do I need to do a 90-minute half marathon? Like yesterday, I finally started running again.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I started running again yesterday, and I looked at the splits, me running at quite a casual pace, and I was like, well, 730 miles means if I can do that casually, 90 minutes is definitely on the cards if I really go for it. I obviously need to train excessively for it. And I thought, why do I want to hit that? And I think the conclusion I've come to, and may or may not be right, is I think I just want to see if I can do it. And I think I find the pursuit of a physical goal.
What's wrong with that?
I think I find that the pursuit of a physical goal really, really fun. And I genuinely do feel that I get my best growth and insights and overall enjoyment of life when I'm pushing myself physically.
100%. Agree.
I think we all have
that comes close. But for me, I'm the same. That's exactly the way I feel. And again, like I know I painted a pretty negative picture before of, we're all there just like fuming when we can't get something. But when we're on a good day and everything's clicking, like the vibe in the gym is brilliant, everyone is happy, you can see that there is so much connection and happiness when you see other people nailing cool skills as well. It's a fantastic feeling. And it is that, because that result, or you hitting that 90-minute time, it's the work that has gone into that prior, right? That's what makes it satisfying, you know. Nothing, and most people would know this, like nothing gives you that same satisfaction. Something that you've had to really work for, really work for, and then you get it. It's an unbelievable feeling versus just you being given that. And you've never had to do anything. You just rocked up to like a 100-meter track sprint. First time you've ever sprinted in your life, you get an 11-second sprint. You know, it's like, what do you mean you can't run fast? You know, let's go here. But you take someone who maybe started off at like 15 seconds. Imagine over 10 years, they get that time down to 11 and a half. I think the person with the 11.5-second sprint is going to be way happier than the person with the 11-second sprint, because they've had to just work for it, to be like, I shaved off 3.5 seconds, you know, to do what I've done. And I think that is where that enjoyment lies, that being able to see progress, being able to accomplish something.
It's really interesting because like I have like probably 3 areas of my life I can pursue really passionately at, but it's only the physical one is the only one that really makes me like really feel alive. I feel very alive, and I feel very like living at the edge. You know, I talk about,
because it's all on you.
I feel like living on the cusp of it and living on a knife's edge. When I'm going hell for leather on a physical challenge, I feel like that. Whereas the others, they are part of my sort of identity portfolio, as you mentioned. But I just don't get that same feeling.
Yeah.
Nothing else gives me that feeling.
I know. I think it has to do with you knowing that it is 100% on you. You know what I mean? Like it's that one endeavor where it's just like, this is you. I think every other part of, you know, identity or maybe other aspects of what you value is also very dependent on other variables.
Yeah.
You know, other people, so to speak. But with that physical pursuit, you know, it's just you versus you. I think that's the kicker. And I think that's what makes it so special. And it can be unbelievable. It can be unbelievably transformative, you know, but as with anything taken too far, taken to the extreme, it can be unbelievably destructive as well.
Yeah.
Or you're in this perpetual cycle of never happy enough. What's the next best thing? What's the next best thing? Versus celebrating what you've done, celebrating what you've got.
But one thing I've been thinking about a lot in the last 6 months I've been thinking about is, you know, is figuring out what is your enough in whatever the areas of your life are. Like what is your version of enough? Because otherwise I think you can fall into a bottomless pit where you constantly feel like you're being eaten alive, and you're never feeling that. It's just understanding what is your enough. I think it's a long thinking process to kind of land at that, because you've got to strip away all the immediate comparison and ego that wants to say it's something else. But finding your enough is it's a very interesting exercise to sort of explore. And I think it often comes back to understanding what your like favorite days are, and like when you feel most alive and when you feel most in flow. Like I know I'm most connected to myself when A, I'm training really hard and completely in the moment, and B, when I'm writing. When I'm writing, I feel like I get a box around me where everything else is non-existent. Those are the two places in my life where I feel
when you're creating.
Yeah, but there's something about writing when you're creating, not like, but I guess it is that, right? It's a specific, you like writing, right? So you get the idea of when you're typing away, you just have things coming at you and a stream of consciousness just flowing through. That and training really hard. And then there's other moments of my day, I think, well, what are the sort of favorite days and the favorite moments in that day? And then when you look at that often is like, if you really were being honest with yourself, that is probably your version of enough. And then it's like extrapolating from your favorite days, what your values are. That's where they come from, right? You know, when you do like a HILPS test or a priorities test, it always links to like how you spend your time or your money, etc. So maybe the question here, like I can go through, because I was thinking about what my favorite days are. Like, what are your favorite days? And then like, what are the values that you pull out from?
That's a really good point. Yeah. Funnily enough, I had one of those favorite days today. That's funny that you brought that up. So today I find at the time of recording this, Coach Ed is away on paternity leave. So, you know, I've had to take a bit more slack over that time. But what I have found is that the busier I get, the more I need to make sure that I'm getting my training in. Like that's still going to be the last thing that I pull back on, because I know no matter how busy I think I get, I know that when I fit that training in, I'm far more content. I feel better about myself, and I can just bring myself better to the people that need me. So I've learned that over the years as well, that is my thing. Call it a vice, call it an escape, whatever you want to do. But for me, the perfect day is getting a nice bike ride in. Sometimes it can be intense. Sometimes a zone 2 ride is perfectly fine too. But also getting in a good gymnastic session as well. I love doing both on the same day. I tried splitting them up. So one day each. Didn't do it for me. I didn't like it as much. So I definitely need to get both of them in to some degree. And to be honest, I also think that the gym that I go to, it's a good time for me to just connect with other people. I find everyone around there is very friendly. Everyone does the same thing. So I need to go there to get a bit more social connection as well, which I find really nice. And then coming to work and adding value. Like I had coaching calls with all the coaches today, and it was just fantastic going through helping them. I find a lot of joy helping them about, with the things that they want to be working on, and even with their own coaching, with their own training, this and that. So giving them value, and then, jumping on a podcast to talk about identity and stuff like that. So yes, I think those sort of days where I feel like I'm creating, where I feel like I'm contributing, where I feel like I'm adding value to the world, those are incredible days for me. And those can be literally the most perfect days. That's in my opinion. So I get to exercise and train and give value to the world. That's where I find the most happiness personally.
What would you say from that are sort of the 3 to 5 like core values that you live by and identify with?
I would say health and fitness for me is going to be number one. That's been number one for a very long time. I feel that when that is my priority, that I can just give myself to everything that I need to be doing. You know what I mean? So when I look after me and I feel great, I can give my best to the coaches, my best to the clients, best to RNT, and best to my family and all that sort of stuff as well. That's a pretty good indicator of my values. No, yeah, family. That's right. No. I place a lot of value in my family too. I make sure that I see them every single week. I make sure that I stay in contact with them throughout the week as well. So they are still a big, obviously a huge value for me too. So for myself, it's going to be health and fitness first, family second, and then I would say career, studies, all that stuff, number 3. So I would say those are my top 3 values, and I live in accordance to those.
What would you say like what is your career and family are like priorities, right? What would you say the value that you draw from them are? But the first one is quite obvious.
My family keeps.
Yeah.
Of course. Yep. So I've already spoken about how much I love that. I'll say my family keeps me very humble, keeps me very grounded. I've come to realize the older I get, the more important they are, and the more time I value with them. They've interestingly enough, I used to always think my parents were wrong about everything. And then the more you grow up and the older you get, the more you realize they're probably right about a lot of things. And I think my mum especially, she'll challenge me in ways that I need to be challenged on, right? So mums are mums. I think mums know their sons best. So that's what I still value. And yeah, just seeing how they live now, I just feel like I get along with them and my brother as well. I feel as I get older, as we all get older, I think we do see the value in what family brings. And I think it can't really be replaced with anything else. I'm very happy with the family that I have. They're very honest. They've done an extremely good job at raising us, helping us, this and that. So I want to make sure that I do see them at least every single week until, but yeah, that's the value I get from that. It's not more of like, what can I take from them? It's more of like,
that's huge.
The perspectives they give me. Yeah. Yeah. It's
It's funny you said about the parents thing, because I was telling my mom the other day about like some of my relationships with some of my friends, and I was like, I just feel like some of them I'm distancing from, like, or this person said this, and I was like, I was surprised, like, just things which are like maybe changing. And my first experience with long-term friends, and she was like, there's a reason why I don't really have many friends, and if I do, very very few real friends. And she's like 30 years 29 years older than me. But
yeah,
there's a reason for that. And she's like, then that's all she said, right? Then 6 hours later, she sends me a video of this like guru talking about why you should make your parents are your only core friends that you'll ever really have.
Literally.
And she was saying, listen to this. And obviously the title was clickbait, but the truth he was talking about was very interesting, because he was basically saying like, you'll spend most of your younger years battling what your parents say, and then you'll realize what they said was gold all along, but it may be too late before you do realize it.
I know.
It's interesting because you probably embody a lot of the values because you get along with your parents, you probably embody a lot of the values they have. So their advice is basically 30 years of experience extra, or whatever, how much older they are, of life experience you just don't have, and you won't ever have that much more life experience, right?
Correct. Yeah. So no, it's been really good. Yeah, I love seeing them. I always feel so much better when I see them, spend time with them. And it's just different to what I do day to day, right? Because my day to day can become very intense, like and I was thinking, I think I saw Mum today, a day of recording. I just went and just popped in and said hello at her work. And I was like, oh, Mum, man, it's been a stressful couple of days, because I also at university, have to go do that, look after this, look after that. I was like, oh no, it's getting hectic. And she was like, it's okay, just go train, go exercise, and you'll be okay. This ended up being like a terrific day today. You know what I mean? Because I knew I had a lot to do, but I also knew that if I look after myself, that I'm going to be able to get all this stuff nailed and have a fantastic day.
Yeah.
So it's good to be able, and it's not many people that you can rely on for that sort of thing, right? Or you can just go to out of nowhere, have a quick chat, and be like, off you go, have a hug, see ya. Which is cool.
Your mom sent me a really sweet message the other day, actually. A congratulations message.
What did she say?
Just a congratulations message. A sentiment around children.
She's that number one biggest fan. Yeah.
Really nice. Really sweet.
She loves what we do. Yeah.
So you're saying that's family, and then your 30 career. Like, what values do you draw from it?
I think what we are doing here is we are literally making a difference in this world, and I think that's a fantastic. I don't know what other career or what other job. I guess if you're like volunteering and like building houses and stuff, that's pretty intense, and you're making a huge difference there. But I think based on my own skill set, this is I find incredible value of just being able to help people become the best versions that they can be, you know what I mean? Whatever that means for them. And just try and again, doing my best to get them to, I hate to say it, as cheesy as it sounds, but, realize their full potential, because I think a lot of people can live a much, much better quality life by prioritizing the things that we talk about day in, day out, So, and as we've discussed as well, like sometimes it can take a long time to get that message across. And it's a constant battle that we're having, but I think in the end it's going to be worth it. And I know I want to be doing this. I don't even think about retirement or anything like that. I'm thinking like, I just want to, these people who talk about early retirement, I'm like, do you hate what you do that much that you just want to retire early? And I'm thinking, man, I want to be doing this until I am 65, 70, 75, 80, and still got my splits and iron cross. But I just want to keep doing this forever until I can, and I've actually seen a few people, maybe not specifically in this space, but in other areas of like even academia, or they're still doing what they love doing, even in their old age. And I'm like, I couldn't see myself doing anything differently. You know what I mean? To some extent, like I just want to be adding value and helping and trying to make some sort of difference in this crazy world. You know what I mean? So that's the value I get from the career, and the studies are just to help with that. I don't need to be going to university now. I have my dream job. I have the place that I want to be working at, but I just want to do that to upskill myself, to make me better at what I do. There's it's growth. So yeah, man.
It's very interesting because your values are like basically the same as mine, which is why I think we get along so well. Like the four things I always live by is health, growth, service, and connection, and they kind of feed what I what we do for a living, training, time with my wife, etc. And then I also have like two sort of, I have it underpinned by autonomy and freedom. Like I really value flexibility in my life, If I wrote something earlier today, I was like, real wealth for me is being able to go for a haircut at 3 p.m. on a Monday afternoon.
100%.
And I think sometimes I maybe take that for, I think you have the same, right? Take that for granted of how amazing that feeling is of just being able to move your day around. Yeah, it might mean sometimes you work at night, but in the afternoon you've gone for a haircut and done your workout, right? But I've got after this session, I'm gonna have lunch with my wife and daughter, and then I'm gonna go Muay Thai, and then I'll probably just work later in the evening. But that
exactly is how good massive. Is that?
And I know I couldn't imagine a life without that level of autonomy and freedom, and it's really, really important. I think every time we do one-to-ones and like formal one-to-ones every couple of months, I think you always mention flexibility is a massive value for you, and
it's huge, man.
Using that, and I think we appreciate it a lot because we didn't have it as a personal trainer, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to being a personal trainer.
I remember the podcast you released with your version of the pregnancy, right? And I think what you opened up with was seeing that PT who was like in his late 30s or whatnot, or even early 30s, knowing that he's not going to be there with his kid. You know what I mean? So how is he meant to be there for his family if he's here open till close every night? Like, that's not really a life that you want to be living, right? No one does.
Yeah. I remember that moment so vividly. I was walking down the track. It was like 7 a.m. I started at 7 a.m. He just finished 6 till 7. And I just remember seeing his bloodshot eyes, and his baby was just born a few days ago because paternity leave is not a thing for personal trainers. And I remember asking, I was like, how's life with the newborn? He's like, oh, well, when I see her, it's good. And I remember just thinking, wow, like I was maybe like 23, 24 when I've heard that. And I remember thinking, when my time comes, well, I've got to make a move soon because this is not
it's amazing.
What I would life to be in 8, whenever it happens, 8 years time. But I think autonomy and freedom is a big part of it, and it kind of helps form the overall, I guess, identity.
Yeah, it does. Bring it back. That's so true. That's actually a really, really good point. Yeah. But funnily enough, because of that autonomy and because of that flexibility, I feel that we do more. We accomplish more because of that, if that makes sense. These people who are stuck, I don't want to say stuck, but, from some of the research that I've seen where people who work, say, in an office from 8 till 5, they only get 2 to 3 hours of actual productive work done, So like, what's that other time being spent on, right? So I think sometimes we can get a high amount of work done in hours time, quite short, because it's very intense, but it's very concentrated, and I think that's a skill that we have honed over a long period of time. But I think that level of autonomy and flexibility, as you said, does allow you to live just a much, much better life in accordance to our values, which I think is a great thing. I know not everyone can be. What sort of advice then would you give for people who don't have that to help improve their situation?
Well, it depends if you value it or not, right? So I place a lot of value on it. So for me, the idea of working corporate, for example, is just not going to happen, right? So I value it. Some people may not value it. So but if it's not a value, then it may not be the case. If you do value it and you're stuck, you feel you're stuck there, and that's when the word stuck becomes an actual word. I know you corrected yourself on that because you're probably thinking the same thing. But if you do value it, and you will feel stuck, and you'll start to eat at you and start to grind away at you, and that's where all the other destructive behaviors come into place. Yeah, and you need to make a change, and
so true.
And that doesn't mean you need to because now remote working is so easy accessible.
Common now.
You can find so many companies to do that at. When I was in Phuket, I don't know if I told you, when I was training in Phuket on that strip, I met so many people who were working for companies all around the world, and their main thing was they wanted flexibility. So they said, I don't care what hours I have to work. I just want to be able to be here and do it.
Yeah, that's cool.
So there's one guy I met who, I mean, this to me is just crazy. He was working 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. for a Canadian company in Thailand. So you can imagine the time difference is like, and then he'd sleep from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then he'd enjoy the day in Phuket. And I was like, how long have you been doing that for? He's like, 6 months. I was like, how long are you going to do it for? He's like, until I don't like it. He's like, but right now I love it. And I thought that's really interesting.
I like that answer.
It made me think, there's so many opportunities to do that now. So, with so many companies allowing remote working. I mean, look what we're doing, right? So doing remote working and having flexibility, as long as you're getting the work done, most companies would allow it. So there is always that option for those who do value it.
But you're right. If you value it, that's the thing. Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. And I think that maybe goes well into maybe in the next thing we want to talk about with regards to identity always being something that is like a moving target, you know, or how values, identity, all that stuff is an ever-changing thing. So like for that gentleman, yeah, I love his response. How long are you going to do it for? Until I don't like it anymore. All right. So, as you know, as you said earlier, what I value now and what's a big part of me now, that may not be the case in 10 years. Maybe in 10 years, I'm like, yeah, I've met some other crazy fitness woman. And then we're both like, why are we doing all this crazy fitness stuff? Let's just be normal plebs. And then, you know, now all of a sudden I don't value any of that. Potentially, probably not. Well, but in some hypothetical world, maybe.
Well, you said it's a moving target and it's always sort of future based. What and I know I like you. I know you like the quote from James Clear around casting future votes, right? What votes are you casting for yourself for the future?
Well, the votes I'm casting for myself is, again, trying to get my aerobic fitness up as high as I possibly can while I'm still young. Again, trying to get as strong and as mobile as I can to set me up for a good quality of life later down the line. I see a lot of stuff that I'm doing now as very worthwhile investments for the person that I want to be. I don't want to have any assistance ever. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to walk up and down my stairs and not need someone to look after me, all that sort of stuff. So I'm doing everything I can in my power to be not only self-sufficient, but be sufficient for the people that need me as well, you know? So I am the votes that I'm casting each day. Yeah, I think they are heavily based in building the best future that I think that I can build. Again, we never know 100% what the future is going to bring us, right? I think all we have control over is our actions now. So I think, am I casting the right vote for the person I want to be? For the most part, yes. But there are probably other areas I should be casting more votes.
Like?
Probably meeting more people, or I'd probably say this every single year on some podcast. But I don't know. I think as the older I get, that little itch is also starting to come a bit more itchy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So mum's always right.
yeah. Well, what I wrote earlier, I was doing this reflection piece, and a few points I wrote that may or may not be relevant for you. I think they are. So I want to say it to you. And one of them was what you do, who you're with, and where you live are the three biggest decisions you make. But the biggest one is that number two, because that can make or break your happiness. You know, if you're with the wrong person, it can really destroy you. Whereas the other two, you can change a lot easier. And the second thing is, just off the back of that, is you want to know exactly what you want in your partner, and then work to become worthy of that sort of caliber.
That partner.
And then just put yourself out there and never compromise on those standards. The only thing is, you have to date a lot to find that person. The outcome is worth the wait.
Potentially. So yeah, that's one area that continues to evade me for now. But the urge is continuing to get a bit stronger there. So who knows? Maybe a year from now, when doing this podcast again, I'll be like, yep, I'm engaged. I have a kid on the way.
You're going to have to cast that vote. You're going to have to cast that vote soon then.
I do. But I can't not pass on my genes. You know what I mean? Like, that would be just such a cruel thing to do.
Yeah, is that the way you think about it? Because I heard someone say that the other day. I say, like, one of the reasons to have kids is a responsibility to keep
like a legacy,
keep your genes.
Yeah,
going.
No. I think I don't think so. No, I was only making a joke there. But the whole like, I need to leave something behind. I'm like, well, why? What does that mean? Like, leaving something behind also means the impact of the people that you've, changed throughout your life. I think that's quite impactful. But yeah, I don't think it's if that's the only reason to have a child, again, I'm not the best person to ask on this, but that doesn't sound like a very good reason, just for the sake of keeping your family name going. I don't know. What do you think?
What, as that as a reason? Well, I don't think the legacy thing is, I think what I'm, because obviously I've got a newborn now, and I think differently around that legacy thing, and not that, I'm not suddenly thinking I want to leave a legacy for my kids. I think I think they need to build their own lives. But I think I'm starting to see the idea of your kid can be your biggest project. If that makes sense, in that they could have a massive impact on whatever they do. And that doesn't have to mean a massive career impact. It can literally just mean spreading joy and being really happy and being amazing, whatever.
That's cool. Yeah.
So I can see that I can feel that energy a lot more of, this could literally be my most important project, potentially.
Yeah.
Especially because
this is going to be your most extreme physical challenge.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely Chandy's most extreme physical challenge.
Yeah, it's true. Sorry, Chandy.
Honestly, when she was in that deep squat, I was thinking the amount of force velocity right now. If we had like or whatever the machines
I love the biomechanical breakdown of that whole segment. That was the best part of the whole thing.
The next day she's like, my neck and my arms and my traps are really hurting. I was like, yeah, no shit, you're pulling on that thing so hard.
Oh man,
like you were like your voluntary, you were like 1 hour remming for about 60 seconds straight.
Oh, I know, insane, right? Absolutely mental. We are so weak in comparison. We'll never have to go through anything like that.
Yeah. Do you think a lot about death and like what's going to happen after?
I do think about death.
And what does it? How does it make you feel?
I think I've heard Mike Manson talk about this quite a bit, and I love the way he speaks about it. I think death gives you, how we always work best with a deadline. Like that's the biggest deadline there is, right? Is one day you are literally going to die. That's a reality, right? I think the opposite would be worse. Imagine saying you will never die. You are immortal forever. I think that in and of itself would induce a ton of complacency. I just don't think you'd get as much done as you think you would. And I think you'd end up a lot more miserable if you're just immortal for the rest of your life. So I do think about death. I don't fear death, but I fear how you could potentially die from various things. The
randomness of it, or the health aspects.
Health side of things, things like cancer. I think in Australia, 1 in 2 people are getting cancer. Cancer continues to be, as you get older and older, no matter what you do, it's one of those things that just can get you quite easily, which is quite scary. I had one of my brother's friends he would have been mid-20s, was diagnosed with a really serious form of cancer. And hearing him talk about chemotherapy, hearing him talking about he gave me like the image of what it was like of him going to the hospital, waiting in the corridor with other people who are there to get treatment. He goes, it's literally like it's a death ward. And the way he explained it was just like horrific. I almost fainted when he was talking to me about it, or just the pain he had to go through with chemo, the pain he had to go through to get rid of all that stuff. I'm like, man, I love tolerating pain, but that sort of stuff, it's
different pain.
That scares me, man. That scares me. And maybe a lot of the reasons why I do the things I do is because of a fear of that as well. To be like, I want to be in the best physical condition to be able to not only handle something like that, but to potentially ward off anything like that. But we know it can get you at any time. We know there are many things something's going to kill you eventually. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I do think about death, and I think it's really good. I think being able to accept it and not fear it is a very interesting thing. But I don't know. It's you won't know until you're close to it, until you think you're close to it. But I don't know. What about yourself?
I think the way I think about it more now is if we're going to die, everything we do, most things we do in life won't really matter. So we get to choose in our lives what does. But in that choice is not to be gripped by fear of expectation or what other people think or what you could do. So I try and think about death as an equalizer for that and a way to do what I want to do, basically. Because less from a time, there is a time element to it, but more from a perspective of like we're all going to be forgotten anyway, aren't we?
That's fine.
Society's been here for millions of years already. It's going to be here for another billions of years.
Yeah.
So I think about death in that way of like, how do I use it to just do what I want? and not in a non-responsibility way, but in a don't let how things hold me back.
Exactly. Yeah.
If it's gone.
If you got notified tomorrow you had 1 year to live, would you be doing anything differently?
Yeah, it's a good question. I wrote something similar earlier, like what you kind of linked to my favorite day, right? What would be like the favorite day? And I wrote like paradise is no alarms, long walks in nature, writing, thinking time, clear calendars, hard exercise, and time with loved ones. I wrote nothing on that list costs money, and I'd probably just do that. I asked my friend a question the other day, the same one, and he said to me, he'd go and travel the world. So we can do that now. Like
yeah.
And that to me wasn't, that might be the answer for some people, but it didn't feel like the answer for me. And
yeah, when people have those bucket lists,
the only things I'd like
thinking that these bucket lists will,
I would stop anything that one of the things was clear calendars. I would just stop all that stuff. Like I wouldn't do meetings. I would cut back on work in that part of it. If that makes sense. I would just stick to purely creative stuff. Apart from that though, everything else feels right. Like I think as long as I have space in my day and that freedom, flexibility, autonomy element, then I'm happy to keep going. Yeah. Probably set one more challenge before I go. One more physical challenge. Yeah. One more physical challenge.
Well, that's the thing. Like I'm in a very similar boat. Like I'm very simple to keep happy. Like a lot of the stuff that I do is also free. Going for walks, being active, being creative, helping people, like that stuff. If I got diagnosed tomorrow, what would upset me the most is not being able to physically do the stuff that I want to be doing. But if it was just like, cool, a year from now you're going to just pass away in your sleep or something, what would you do differently right now? And so I'll be like, okay, well, I'll keep doing the exact same thing I'm doing now. Maybe impregnate someone and just leave. No, but in all seriousness, I think the fact that we can say that in itself is like probably the biggest blessing when you think about it. That's incredible that we can say that and be happy with that. Because I think when people get that sort of news, or you see a lot of people wanting to cross off all these things off their bucket list and travel here and travel, all this travel stuff. Like, I don't know, no matter where you go, you still got to take your own brain with you. So
you still got to take your thoughts with you. You still got to take your mind with you. And if your thoughts are terrible, you're not going to explore it. You're going to enjoy it.
No, they'll distract you temporarily, but you're still going to have to come to grips with the reality of death in a year's time. So
I think about the end of like I've talked about that scene of the end of all at the gate, right? The guard at the gate says, at the end of your life, the guard at the gate says, he pulls out a scroll and he said, this is what I had planned for you. And then he pulls out another scroll and it says, this is what you did. And my fear in life is there's a big gap between the two.
But then that's assuming that you had some fate, that there was something that you had to do, right? Do you think that's the case?
Well, I think we're all here for a certain reason. There's not like it's not a big, not like a big deal in terms of the reason, but I think we're all good at certain things. We all have certain gifts, and in that scroll, it's not saying like you need to have achieved this. It's more like you need to have lived this way. You need to have gone all in a few areas of your life and just keep.
But who's the judge? Who's the judge to say that you should be living a certain way? You know what I mean?
Don't know the answer to that.
Like that would be like the angel saying, "Hey, this is the way you should have lived." Bad Akash,
I mean, this is like a fictional scenario, right? It's rather than
of course.
We don't actually know what happens out there.
I think I don't know about the whole fate thing. It's hard to like prove or disprove. I think we all come here. I think we're all capable of creating our own meaning of what the hell we're all doing, but.
Well, there's an element of like thinking about when you think about going through life, is like you're trying to figure out what your game is and what your thing is, right? We're obviously, I think, quite advanced in that we've kind of landed on what we enjoy and love, and we found that quite early. But like you said, that evolves, and we don't know. This could be a season of 15 years that we just are really enjoying, from like 20 to 35 or 25 to 40, and then we have a new thing that we have to go and find. And one question I often ask myself, I know you said you do this till you're 80, and the question I often ask is, well, is this the thing, or is there another thing coming that I just don't know? And
Exactly.
Yeah. No.
I think
it's impossible. It's impossible to know that as well.
Exactly. So I think maybe you should clarify that. It's more like I want to be adding value.
Yeah.
For the rest of my life. And how we do that may change. You know, for 15, 20 years, it's this method. In the 20 years after that, it's a different method. But we're still adding value, changing people. But, you know, I think that will still remain the core thing that really brings us a lot of value. But we don't know that.
Don't know.
By the time we get to 50, it'd be like, it's not worth it. Yeah,
it's impossible to plan. It's impossible to predict that, right? You're never going to get.
We are so bad at it.
Because when you get there, you're not going to know that was the thing that you were thinking about 25 years ago, right?
Yeah. We know nothing, so just live every day. Just do what you want to do every day. That's my best advice.
So back to identity.
Thanks for asking.
How do you use your identity to stay in shape?
Yeah, think about death.
I think if we do circle this back, all of this is linked to actually how you control your health and fitness and how you stay in shape. Because what we spent an hour talking about is probably more around the lines of fulfillment and enjoyment of your life. And I think you said to me a while ago, there's some research found that there's a direct correlation between happiness and adherence.
Yeah, massively.
So if you want to
you're happy in your life, go for it.
I say if you want to learn how to stay in shape, fix all the other areas in your life, and it'll probably fall into alignment.
100%. When again, now you can use the physical transformation to improve those other areas of your life. But from what we see, these should all be done in tandem. Like if you're only physically transforming and everything else around you is going into the pooper, you're doing it absolutely wrong, because you need to understand that for this to last over the long term and for you to not only lose the weight but keep it off for the rest of your life, you will have to change some aspects of your identity. That is just a given. You cannot expect to be the person. You cannot expect to be a different person 12 months from now with the same identities and the beliefs that you have. It just can't be done. You need to change those, not only throughout your fat loss or process phase, but also what happens after that. Okay. And we always talk about this here at RNT, is that it may take you 3, 6, 9, 12 months to lose the physical weight, but it can take up to a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years to lose the mental and emotional weight. And this is the reason why so many people struggle to stay in shape. In my opinion, this is probably the most fundamental one, because they may have lost the weight for like a challenge, or they may have committed for a short period of time, but they haven't actually changed the person who they are. Meaning that as soon as that shiny object goes, what's going to motivate you to stay in shape? Okay. And that is where, in my opinion, identity really, really shines, because the person who knows who they are, the person who identifies as someone who prioritizes healthy eating, exercise, sleep, et cetera, they don't need to rely on willpower and motivation to get stuff done. They just do it. You know what I mean? There is no adherence issues. There is no, I got home and I emotionally ate because blah, 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 blah. No. They don't do any of that, because it's just like, I know food's not going to fix this problem. I've got to deal with it head on, go to bed. Like that's the sort of identity type thing that we are always talking about here. And that takes a lot of time. It can't be done in a short amount of time. It just can't be done.
Yeah. Well, we're going to do a part 2 on this. So stay tuned. And
where we actually talk about fitness.
Once you contemplate on your existence. We'll be back shortly.